Sometimes justice isn't served in daylight. Sometimes it hides in the shadows, behind badges and uniforms. It was a muggy August evening in 2016 when I first walked through the iron gates of Central Heights Police Department Precinct 12. The faded red brick building had the look of an old schoolhouse pressed into service as a law enforcement hub. Above the heavy wooden door, a tarnished brass plaque read "Serving and Protecting Central Heights since 1923. But within those walls, I would later learn, a century-old legacy of racism and corruption simmered just beneath the surface. I'm Detective Morgan Blake, a 20-year veteran of the force with awards, commendations, and a reputation for integrity. After years on the streets and in internal affairs, I was handpicked for Operation Nightshade, an ambitious, covert FBI sting aimed at rooting out entrenched bigotry in one of America's most notorious departments. My cover, a recent transfer seeking work in internal investigations. In reality, I was wearing an FBI wire, recording every whispered slur and every discriminatory act. Key figures at Precinct 12 are 1. Captain Harold Hank Renner, 58 years old, a grizzled career cop who'd risen through the ranks on the backs of loyalty and intimidation. Loved by many, and feared by more. 2. Sergeant Carla Dawson, 42 years old, one of the precinct's few female sergeants, tough as steel, respected by peers, yet strangely silent whenever race was mentioned. 3. Officer James Jimmy Carlton, 28 years old, a gregarious beat cop with a quick smile. But his joke repertoire teetered on the edge of hate speech. 4. Officer Marcus Mark Ellis, 35 years old, a well-liked veteran, decorated in Afghanistan. He confided in me once that his biggest regret was seeing the enemy so different out there, then realizing half my own neighbors felt the same way. From day one, the atmosphere was electric with tension. Old-timers eyed me warily, rookies pitched sideways glances. I felt the weight of unspoken rules, what to say, and more critically, what not to. My first week was a whirlwind of ride-alongs, paperwork, and probationary meetings with Captain Renner, who grilled me on my true loyalties. The precinct whiteboard was covered with community policing initiatives, trust, transparency, teamwork. A thin veneer masking something far darker. At precisely 2:17 a.m. on August 9th, dispatch crackled with a burglary in progress at the home of Maria Torres, a Mexican-American widow. I joined officers Carlton and Ellis on the scene. What happened next was a textbook example of abuse of power. They stormed into the house without announcing themselves, weapons drawn. They handcuffed Torres on her own porch, shouting, "Speak English, señorita." They joked about illegal spawns, then tore apart her living room, and found no stolen goods. I kept my mouth shut, wired every word, and watched Torres's tears stain the concrete. That moment confirmed, this precinct didn't just tolerate racism, it thrived on it. If you believe every victim deserves justice, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Over the next month, similar incidents piled up. A black church in East Central Heights received a routine patrol from Officer Carlton, who defaced the cross with racial slurs. A Muslim family returning from Ramadan services was stopped for suspicious behavior. Sergeant Dawson joked about no-go zones. A Haitian immigrant was beaten during a traffic stop by Officers Ellis and 2 others. Their report claimed the suspect resisted arrest. I logged each incident, detailed date, time, and participants. The patterns bled through: blacks, Latinos, Muslims, all treated as criminals first, humans second. But the precinct never self-reported. Internal affairs complaints vanished into a black hole. Community relations meetings served as photo-ops for Chief Deputy Reynolds, who struck a paternalistic pose. "We're committed to equality," he'd say, blue suit immaculate, before vanishing behind locked doors. For more behind-the-scenes looks at law enforcement corruption, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss our next expose. Once I had documented enough, I enlisted the help of my FBI handlers and 2 courageous insiders, Detective Linda Park, in Internal Affairs, and Officer James J. Whitman, a rookie disgusted by what he'd seen. Together, we formed an unofficial cell, code name Nightshade. My wire picked up jokes so vile they read like a hate crime manifesto. Carlton, 2 can play at MLK Day, let's make it an armed patrol. Ellis bragged about beating up a wetback he caught buying groceries. Dawson lamented the precinct had too many colored folks on patrol. Renna greeted our reports with "That's police work, folks." Linda Park quietly dug through suppressed complaint files.
I provided her with copies of my logs.
1 year's worth of beatings, unwarranted raids, and cover-ups. She gave me redacted files, names blacked out, false claims of insufficient evidence stamped across pages. Not surprisingly, numerous cameras failed in the moments of brutality. We cross-referenced patrol logs, times, durations, location mismatches. One apology email from the vendor blamed software glitches, but our forensic team proved otherwise, deliberate disabling. If you're outraged by this cover-up, share this video with friends and comment your thoughts below. We set up secret meetings with the victims in undisclosed locations.
Fear hung thick in the air.
1. Maria Torres tearfully recounted the porch assault.
Her bruises unaired on precinct cameras.
She spoke of the humiliation.
She agreed to testify.
2. Reverend Samuel Green of East Central Church documented defacement, offered photos of slurs carved into wood. He broke down remembering how his congregation's children huddled in fear. 3. Dr. Amina Rahman, a professor detained after midnight walk, accused of loitering. She described being thrown face-first into the squad car. Each testimony painted a picture, a department where brutality was policy, discrimination was standard, and lies were the law. The turning point came when rookie Jay Whitman, overwhelmed by guilt, agreed to record a ride-along debrief after his shift. In a hidden pocket recorder, he described,
"I pulled over that family. They were just driving home.
They got out. I told them get back in the car. I hit the dad in the face. I'll never forget his kid's eyes."
His voice cracked.
He whispered, "I can't live with this." That recording shattered the precinct's wall of silence. If you admire Jay's courage, tap that like button and leave an encouraging comment below. With mounting evidence, public pressure flared. Local news peddled conflicting narratives. Precinct defense, "A few bad apples," cried Renna, pointing to drug enforcement success. "This doesn't define us." Community activists called for full oversight, citing decades of complaints. "Racist culture is systemic," declared NAACP Representative Angela Brooks. Conspiracy theorists suggested the FBI was waging a political war on local law enforcement. Flyers popped up around town. "Stop the feds, support the badge." In the frenzy, some critical pieces slipped through cracks. Second shift logs. Missing night shift logs indicated additional unreported abuses. Email chains. A series of emails between Renna and a local watchdog blogger hinted at hush money payouts to victims. Anonymous tip line. Dozens of calls remained unanalyzed, including allegations of sexual misconduct tied to racial harassment.
We fought tooth and nail to submit these to the grand jury.
Local politicians attempted to bury them as irrelevant. By spring 2017, indictments were brought against 8 officers: Carlton, Ellis, Dawson, plus 4 lesser-known beat cops. Crimes ranged from civil rights violations to assault and obstruction of justice. Renna and Deputy Reynolds were charged with conspiracy and tampering with evidence. Courtroom 4B overflowed with press and community members. I sat behind Maria Torres, her face steeled with resolve. On the stand, she recounted those brutal minutes, voice unwavering as a juror's eyes locked on Officer Carlton's badge. Detective Park and Jay Whitman testified under heavy security. Whitman's visible remorse moved the gallery. Some jurors wept. Even defense attorneys grimaced at his raw sincerity. Verdicts and sentences were pronounced as follows. James Carlton, convicted on civil rights assault charges, sentenced to 7 years. Marcus Ellis, pleaded guilty, 5 years. Carla Dawson, acquitted on grounds of lack of physical evidence, but forced to resign. Harold Renna and Reynolds, conspiracy convictions, 10 years each. But justice was imperfect. The unnamed beat cops vanished, never found or prosecuted. Hush money emails never led to full restitution. The eulogies from the defense spoke of fleet-footed rumors and betrayal, while victims felt justice only partially served. If you value accountability, or see holes in this verdict, sound off in the comments below. Even after the trials, questions linger. What happened to the missing night shift patrol logs? Rumor says they were shredded, but no one has been charged for that crime.
Where did the watchdog bloggers' payouts go?
Banks froze some accounts, but the full trail remains hidden. How many other precincts operate this way? Operation Nightshade was a pilot, No word on expanding similar investigations nationwide. Community activists continue the fight. Civil rights groups demand bodycam mandates, independent oversight boards, and anti-bias training as non-negotiable. Central Heights saw protests and candlelight vigils. Some precinct officers now greet visitors with a cautious respect they once denied. To support reform efforts, like and share this video. Let's make sure every precinct answers to the people. Operation Nightshade did more than expose a single precinct's rut. It sparked a national conversation about policing culture, accountability, and the thin line between order and oppression. Convictions reminded us even those sworn to protect can become predators. Whistleblowers proved one brave voice can break an empire of silence. Communities showed that justice demands more than badges and promises. It requires vigilance and action. Yet, for every step forward, there's a step back. Racism and abuse haven't vanished. They've adapted. New officers arrive, new precincts hide old evils, and the cycle threatens to repeat. If this story moved you, consider subscribing for more real-life exposes, because infringement on civil rights can happen anywhere. What reforms, beyond body cameras and oversight boards, do you think are essential to dismantle systemic racism in law enforcement? Share your thoughts below, and let's keep this critical conversation alive.